Welcome back to the Food on Demand podcast, where we dish up insights on the future of food relating to off-premises operations and the overall digital dining experience. I'm Bernadette Heyer, Managing Editor.
And I'm Hans Lammerman, Food Service and Technology Reporter. Food on Demand is your exclusive source covering the ongoing transformation of how people discover, shop, order, and consume food in the digital age.
Well, we have a great interview today with Cassie Duval, Director of Catering at Mobetta's. But first, it's time for our quick bites once again. So Hans, what are you covering?
Well, last week I had the pleasure of speaking with the founder and CEO of Matternet, which is kind of a drone upstart. They've been around for, I think just about since 2011 or so. And I heard from them about the plan to scale the business, the hurdles associated with going into new countries and to new cities, because there's a lot of regulatory challenges that they face there. And then also I followed up on their pilot program, I guess pun intended, with Dave's Hot Chicken in California. So definitely a lot going on for Matternet, and this is a very interesting deep dive that we'll have on the website.
Well, for me, as we know, Food on Demand conference just wrapped up recently in Dallas, but we still have a grade of content coming out from the panels that were hosted. Several articles over the past few weeks have been recapping some really interesting nuggets that operators can learn from. One in particular you can check out this week is the one that I wrote covering a panel on menu intelligence that Hans actually moderated. That had leaders from Olo, Everybite, and Noodles & Company, and they all shared how brands are using guest behavior, ingredient data, and personalization tools to create a smarter digital ordering experience. One area that Everybite, for example, really works on is allergen and nutrition tracking. So helping restaurants turn those static menus into a more dynamic, ingredient forward menu that they can really interact with and know what they're going to eat. So that was an angle. Noodles & Co. talked a lot about some menu innovation using data to understand like best LTOs. For example, they realized they were being searched a lot for ramen, but didn't have a ramen dish at that time. So they added that as an LTO and it became one of their most successful ones. So things like that are very interesting to read and learn about. So check out those articles on Food on Demand.
And speaking of the conference, this interview that we have with Cassie is the second of three podcasts that we recorded live on the floor there in Dallas. And so we have another one coming for you in 2 weeks. But what a great conversation we had with Cassie.
Yeah, all about catering. So we're excited to dive in.
We have another live podcast for you from the 2026 Food on Demand Conference here in Dallas.
And we're very excited to be here. You can probably hear the background noise that we are on the busy floor. And we're very excited to be joined by Cassie Duval. She is with Mobetta's and is the Director of Catering there, a very big topic of this year's conference. So we're going to get into some questions about your panel you were on and so forth. But to start off, could you give us a bit of background on you, your current role, and what you oversee?
Yeah, so I am the Director of Catering at Mobetta's. I've been here about a year, a little over a year now. I was with my previous brand as the Director of Catering for almost 10 years, so lots of experience in the catering world. At Mobetta's, since I've joined, we've brought on, I have a team of 12 right now, looking to be 14 here soon, and so growing fast. But I oversee the operations side of catering, the innovative side of catering, the menu rollouts, as well as the sales team and being out in the field, boots on the ground, and then also our call center team as well. So just taking in all those calls and building those relationships.
When you joined, well, first of all, I'd like to say it's very nice to see you in person. We first spoke for your outstanding operator feature for Mobetta's, so that was exciting. And now I get to talk to you here at the conference. And when you joined Mobetta's, can you walk us through some of the opportunities that you saw with the catering program then?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of it was happening to us. And so a lot of it was coming in. We had just rolled out the program a year or two before that, the catering program in general. And so when you roll it out from the beginning, a lot of business comes to you. And now we're really changing it to we're going out and getting the business. We're building the relationship with past customers. And we've built a program to where it's sustainable for future.
And I know that you led catering at your past role at Cafe Rio.
Yes, yep.
Thinking about how much catering's changed, looking at now, what are some things that come to mind and some things that you've been pivoting or thinking about with the current strategies?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing is it's very competitive now. You know, everyone's doing it. Everyone's understanding that it's such a huge sales opportunity and growth opportunity and profitability. And so I think just really looking at how we could sustain it with 500 restaurants versus the 74 that we have today is the biggest thing that I have in mind. And just, making sure that we're doing it right and doing it right by the customer and not just sending food out and being late and all the things, that we're doing it right for the customer too.
And like I mentioned, you had a little bit of stage time already here at Food on Demand. You just got off a panel titled First Party Catering, Building Direct Relationships Alongside Consumers. Can you walk us through some of the key takeaways, especially from an operator's perspective, and what you're seeing at Mo Betta's?
Yeah, so the biggest part of the panel is how do we, make sure that we get those first party catering and start a digital channel. And I think that was the biggest takeaway is where to start, and what you're going to do with it and what each brand needs and what each brand's focus is. And my part of the panel and my thing when I said, this is what you should start with, it's the menu for me. Making it simple, making sure that your operators can execute it very well. Because if you throw in lots of customizations and you throw in bigger menus, you're going to very much suffer in the four walls where most of our business comes from. Catering's a percentage of it, but most of it comes from the four walls. And so I think that's the biggest piece of it when you think of catering is making sure that you're rolling out a menu that's sustainable for years.
And when we think about first party versus third party, obviously it's very important for discovery with the marketplaces, but you want to bring those orders into your own app or, into first party. How do you view those buckets and what are your strategies?
Yeah, so we have an online ordering platform that we've used. And I think the biggest piece of it and what I've explained to my general managers and operators is you can't think of a third-party marketplace order as just a third-party marketplace order. They have to be our customer too. And just because you don't see the name or the number, whatever that looks like, they're still a customer waiting for their food. And so I think that that's a big piece of it. And also just building relationships with customers. Catering's a relationship area, and I think that's so much forgotten about. We're not just turning and burning them as they're coming in our restaurant, right? There's somebody who's going to order from us long term, and they're ordering larger events.
And you're steeped in many years of catering experience and helping shape the program there at Mo Betta's. Are there any common misconceptions that you hear about catering that you could debunk?
I would say that it's easy, that they can just add it to their menu and it go really well. It will go probably well for the first year, but after that, you're going to have to roll those numbers over. And so you have to keep those long-term relationships. I think that would be the biggest. Everybody wants to do it, but not everybody does it well and rolls it out well.
What are some of the biggest road bumps that operators often face for implementing a new catering program or relaunching one?
Yeah, so I would say probably the biggest thing is with the menu, it depends on how you shape your menu, but giving them the tools that they need to be able to execute really well. Because if they're having to play the guessing game on portions and what they're sending out, and then that's when things get behind, it's really giving them the tools that they need to succeed and to make sure that we operate those successfully.
When we think about how important it is to have a centralized system or CRM when it comes to scaling catering in a meaningful way, where do you see some of the biggest gaps in catering technology?
Yeah, so there's a system for everything. And I think there's online ordering systems or first party systems. There's different CRMs, there's different delivery companies. And I think that it's just finding the one that works for you and not trying too many of them. Sticking with the one that you have. We use OmniRev right now, which is a great CRM. It's very AI driven. But if you continue to switch, you're not going to get the data that you need.
Piggybacking a bit on AI, how are you guys exploring that? I know you're overseeing the catering, but maybe in general at the brand, if you know.
Yeah, so we've dove into AI just a little bit, and we use a lot of it to, just give us feedback on our customer surveys and different things like that. But as far as catering, it helps us build our templates and it helps us build everything. And that's a lot of what the CRM we use today is a lot of, just AI driven. It builds companies for us. It builds follow-up emails for us so that my sales team can actually be out there building relationships and on the ground.
And I think there's a bit of component on, thinking about the data side and using AI for maybe historical or guessing what may happen.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about big catering orders and kind of preparing for that. Is that something you're seeing?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, before we had the CRM, we had to use the tools that we had. So I would put, our reports through the system and tell me what are my top customers, and what are their ordering habits. And it's only as good as that will go. But I think that's a great starting point for teams to be able to use just the tools that they have at their expense and be able to understand customer habits.
At the start of the conversation, you mentioned the call center.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about what the process was like, of actually bringing that to fruition, the opportunities that you saw with it, and then maybe some hiccups along the way.
Yeah, so the call center was in place with just like 1 or 2 employees before I started. And so it was an idea that they, had already implemented. And I also, we had a call center at Cafe Rio as well. But I find that a lot of customers want to order through somebody. Like, especially if they're ordering for a wedding or they're ordering for a bigger event, they want to call and talk to somebody. And it can't be the restaurant in the middle of the lunch hour. So it can't be at noon. It can't be at 1 because a lot of times they don't answer the phone or give them the attention that they want. And we've also found that, customers will call back because of that. They worked with somebody at the call center and they think they talked to a real live human, which they are talking to a live human, but they'll call back and ask for them because they helped them out. And also just the upsell piece of it. We're finding our check is larger because we're able to upsell different things and ask before they even know what they need.
What's your approach to using voice AI for those call center calls?
Yeah, so we are looking into that. It's something that we have done some exploration with, but just not ready to pull that trigger yet because it's not, for us right now, it's not the ROI that we need it to be. But I do think that it's probably the future and what will end up, being the future. But, I think that's something else to explore.
Yeah, especially if you're getting so much positive feedback about that human touch to the call center, then I can imagine that'd be hard to get rid of. So if that were to happen, I'm sure it'd be kind of a phased approach.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And there would be some, things that we would have to work out how often they're asking for a live human because, you kind of know at some point who's AI and who's not. So, yeah.
Well, when we think about how catering has changed over the past few years, something I've been seeing is with the return to work, there's a lot of workplace catering strategies happening for restaurants. Also, individualized packages versus buffet style. Can you kind of talk about that, what you're seeing at Mobetta's and in the industry?
Yeah, and so we have an option for both. We have buffet style and we also have individualized packaging. And I think it just kind of depends on the meeting. We heard yesterday in the Easy Cater Forum with some of the order placers that they order the box lunches for smaller meetings, but then they need the larger ones for, or the buffet style for the larger meetings. So I think it just depends on the customer, but I think it's great to offer both, just keeping it simple though, so that it's not too many offerings.
Well, as you look ahead, what does a best-in-class catering program look like? And what's one thing operators should be focusing on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there has to be a good follow-up system and making sure that we're getting feedback on the caterings and we're executing well because there's too many options for us to be late or to not bring all items and to not do, all the things that the customer needs. And so I think that that's the biggest thing. They have to do it well and not just say, oh, the customer was okay. Anytime I hear that, I kind of cringe a little bit. I'm like, but were they great or were they just okay? Because they're just not going to choose us again because there's 750 options in Dallas alone, and so we have to make sure that we're the best of the best.
Are there any low-hanging fruit that you've identified for, maybe catering programs that are looking to boost their sales or kind of revamp their operation? Or also maybe if there's some missed opportunities that you notice?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of probably misconceptions on how much B2B orders. They order quite often. And so I think giving them the option of ordering with you and making it easy for them, I think is the biggest thing. And it can't just be like, usually B2C is a one-time event or something like that. But I also think just understanding how many customers come back into the restaurant when they get a catering that they love. I think that's another good avenue just to like talk about with catering, because there is so much business that comes in from the restaurant when they have it at work.
Well, I'd actually love to hear a little bit more. We've had a few panels here at Food on Demand, and of course the Easy Cater Growth Forum, and they mentioned the branded packaging, and how that can be really important for consumers to actually know where the food is from, which obviously leans into the reputation that the brand gets from that experience.
Yeah.
So what's your approach at Mo Betta's for that, and maybe ways that you're looking to improve that if you're not completely satisfied, I suppose?
Yeah, absolutely. So we don't have a lot of branded packaging. We have, a couple of things. We have some stickers. We have boxes that make it really bright and colorful and have some of our brand. But if they don't order that, they don't get that. And so it's an opportunity for sure. And I think some of the packaging the branded packaging that's offered today doesn't keep it as hot as it should. And so I think that's probably the opportunity that we're seeing now is what will keep it hot and be able to sustain, but also do some branding on it. I know I heard yesterday in the Easy Cater forum about the table tent that said you got your order today from Mo Betta's or wherever it is, and there's a QR code. I think that's an opportunity to be able to bring some more like that. But also you have to rely on operators to leave those at the table. And so I think there's lots of opportunity for branded packaging.
Well, we learned a lot, and we kind of, quizzed you quite a bit here on catering. Before we get into our last part here, what's one of your favorite parts about working in the food industry and working with catering? What excites you?
Yeah, I think it's seeing the growth. I love to hear from my GMs when they call and say, I didn't have to work a double today because I didn't have to send somebody home because we got so much catering today, and I think that they're starting to really see the benefits of it and the profitability of it. If you can get $5,000 out your door before you even open, I think that's my favorite part, because it's just an extra value to restaurants that's so needed and just drives extra business in the restaurant.
Thank you so much for all your great insights. We like to wrap it up with a little fun section called Did You Leave Room for Dessert? Where we kind of ask some fun questions to get to know you better. I'll let Hans kick it off.
All right, yeah, so this is kind of like a lightning round, so nothing too serious.
Great.
So I know that charcuterie boards are essentially the at-home coffee table version of catering.
Yeah.
So unless you have a strong stance against charcuterie, what would you rank as a top-tier addition to a charcuterie board?
Oh, gosh. Chocolate.
Chocolate always helps.
Yeah.
So Mo Betta serves Hawaiian Sun and the POG juice, but there's no need to allow that to influence here with your answer. Not counting water, what is your favorite beverage to sip on for a pick-me-up?
Diet Dr. Pepper. I am a Diet Dr. Pepper fan, true and true, unless it's like a crispy Coke. Then I like that.
Yes, with ice
Yes,
for me.
yes.
And then lastly, aside from cake, what food would you most like to celebrate an occasion?
Oh, besides from cake. Let me
And
think.
we can also exclude any Mo Betta's dishes as well.
Yeah. I would say probably cookies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I got to shout out my friends at Nothing But Cake because I love their cakes. But yeah, that's what I would say. Cookies.
Well, awesome. Well, you survived the lightning round, and we really appreciate all your insight from this interview today. Is there anything else that you'd like to add about catering or things that you've been seeing going on that we didn't already touch on?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I think it's just such a good revenue stream. And I would say to the operators, definitely do it well. Don't just do it halfway, and really, I think I will quote my CEO. We got in a room with a whole bunch of people and he said, Cassie's running, $1 million+ business. Like, this is a business in itself. Let's not downplay what we're doing here, even though it's a percentage of our business. And so I think that that's the biggest thing too, is like, treat it like it is its own business.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Well, I hope that you enjoyed that conversation as much as we did. Like we said, we have another podcast live from the floor in Dallas, which will be our last from the conference. That'll be in 2 weeks. So we hope to see you again in another 14 days for the next Food on Demand podcast.
Thank you.